Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 91. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the Sensei of the Whatnot Segulent, and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, actually, first of all, I want to start off by saying Happy Mother's. That's why I didn't do kind of a silly opening. I want to give some time to just say a Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there that listen to the podcast, and just, shout that out because we're recording this on Mother's Day, so it'd be kind of a cool thing to shout out to everybody.
Yeah, Happy Mother's Day to everybody. This is one of those cool holidays that, some people argue, what is it? I'm like, you know what? This is the person who has been there for you, and this is a great moment, and I don't know. It's, kind of a neat thing if you haven't said hi to your mother, you make sure you give them a call. If you don't talk to them, just that quick, call. Moms love those kind of things.
I had a personal family issue this week that I'll address probably in another later episode, but it actually made my week particularly crazy. So I want to thank you, Jim, for your flexibility today, because we had to do a quicker recording. This is going to be a shorter one than usual. On this episode, we're going to talk about issues 0 and 1 of Future's End, because we really are excited to talk about this series. We're also going to talk about the wrap-up of Teen Titans and the most recent Teen Titans Annual. And we kind of do an overview of our feelings about the series, what characters we were attached to, what characters grew on us over time, if we have any issues at all with any of the characters, because there's a lot of big changes in Teen Titans with the New 52 launch. Actually, arguably, it's one of the teams that had maybe some of the biggest changes to characters that were around in the previous universe. Would you agree with that to a certain extent, Jim?
Oh God, yeah. This was a huge one that I know there was a lot of people who, were very angry with the changeovers and everything that happened, because they're like, what? We have these classic stories that now mean nothing, that never happened. And this was one of the ones that people were very angry about, because they did such a dramatic change with the Titans and with a lot of great classic stories that they said just they're gone now. So that was a huge thing. So yeah.
So I was very, very into having a discussion about this series wrap up and just our overall feelings about everything as we prepare for the new series. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the DCinfinite.com podcast partnership, and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring us this episode is once again DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. You and I are big fans of these Absolute volumes, Jim, and DCBService.com has Absolute Batman Incorporated hardcover. This includes Batman Incorporated 1 through 8, Batman Incorporated Leviathan Rises, Batman Incorporated Volume 2 1 through 13, and the Batman Incorporated Special Number 1. After Bruce Wayne publicly announces the worldwide franchise of Batman Inc., he is joined in the war on crime by Knight and Squire, El Gaucho, and Batwing. But as soon as Batman creates his own crime-fighting force, another organization rises to challenge him, Leviathan. As the war between the two forces reaches its apex, Bruce Wayne will face the greatest tragedy of his life. This is a $125 book regularly, 50% off, only $62.50. If you were a fan of Batman Inc., and there was some amazing artwork in that series, this is the way to get it. And honestly, for me, there's a huge difference between a $125 book and a $62.50 book, as far as in my sense of whether or not I'm picking that book up. There's no way I'm going to be able to do a $125 book. I got to thank DCBService.com for doing this. I like shouting out those type of deals because people who pick and choose which absolutes they're getting, I'm a big fan of the volumes, and this is a great way to get it. So that's the Absolute Batman Incorporated hardcover. Remember their digital partner. Link your digital accounts from things like Comixology and earn 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. Over at InStockTrades.com, I'm just going to shout this out real quick, and I'll talk more about it at the end of the episode. They are doing a Nightwing New 52 sale. All 3 of the first volumes, collecting issues 1 through 18 and Batman number 17, actually 0 through 18 and Batman number 17 of Nightwing, are collected at 45% off each. That Volume 1 and Volume 2 are $8.24. Volume 3 is $9.34. They're doing this special promotion right now leading up to the Grayson series. So I wanted to shout that one out over at InStockTrades.com. Remember, DCBService.com is your pre-order source, and InStockTrades.com is your collected edition source. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
You won't get away from me this time, Buster.
Jim, I want to start off first. You and I have been talking about this. Actually, you're the one that shouted it out last week when you and I were talking kind of off-air, mentioned the Free Comic Book Day issue of Future's End, and we both really wanted to talk about this event. So the writers are Brian Azzarello, Jeff Lemire, Dan Jurgens, Keith Giffen. The artists are Ethan Van Sciver, Patrick Zurcher, Aaron Lopresti and Art Tiber, Dan Jurgens and Mark Irwin, Jesus Marino and Dan Green. The art consultant is Keith Giffen. Colors by Hi-Fi. Assistant editor is Kyle Andrukowitz. And apologies for name butchery. Letters, Carlos Mangual. Editor, Joey Cavallari. Cover by Ryan Sook. Group editor is Matt Idelson. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And we're going to be talking about issue 0 and 1, the Free Comic Book Day issue, and the first issue of the Future's End event. Big event. It takes place, first of all, starting us off in the future, but then jumps back to present day. And I can't help but wonder, with Keith Giffen as the art consultant, if they're using him the same way that they did, like with 52, where because there's multiple art teams, Keith Giffen is kind of acting as like a coordinator to all of that because of his experience with doing a weekly, which worked really well with that. So I'm thrilled to death to have his involvement in this capacity. What did you think of this? Let's kind of just do general impressions, because I didn't know walking in. We had made some certain assumptions based on the previews of what this was going to be. Was this what you were expecting?
No, not at all, because using Batman Beyond universe, etc., I really didn't know about the other heroes even being around, because I've read this stuff, but I haven't been that in-depth into it, so I don't know who's around, who's going to happen, and I didn't see this happening. I didn't see this massive body count of... This was an incredible body count, and I kind of like if you have the chance to do something like this, this is showing the true level of this event, how you have to go... He has to, break the timeline. He has to do this, because the bad guys won. Brother Eye has won. Humanity is done now, and this is the last chance. This is the only hope, and I like the fact that if they're going to do something huge as doing the time travel, the reason behind it is we've lost. This is our only chance. This is the full reboot. Let's see what we can do.
Well, and this is taking Brother Eye, and like we had that OMAC concept before, where humans and metahumans were being turned into OMACs. This is creepier to me because their whole mind is being changed. They're being controlled and turned into cyborg versions of themselves. It's a twisted horror story. And I mean, we're seeing right out of the starting gate heavy hitters. Superman's been taken over. Wonder Woman's been taken over. Right from those are two of the biggies right away from the start. And more as this series is going on, as in the initial issue. But I'm talking about right from the start. These are heavy hitters who've been hit by all this. Really didn't expect to see that, because this starts off 35 years in the future, where these heroes have already been taken.
Yeah, and it's with the sneak previews and all that we've had with this, you knew the initial part of it. So you knew there was going to be some killings, but as we start going into it, we start seeing just all these other people that have been transformed. And I thought that was a cool part of going through the book, in the second and third read through, saying, "Oh, hey, there's Booster Gold. Oh, tough luck, buddy." And it just you see the Brother Eye version of him, the cybernetic version of him, out there. And I thought that, again, was really cool and a neat artistic choice.
Now, Frankenstein, we see Frankenstein, and with what happened with Black Canary being a part of his chest now and being able to be used as a... I'm looking at Frankenstein's head, and you see some kind of metal at each of his lobes. Frank's talking, and he's got his memories. He knows the Flash. What's going on? Is Frank? And he's chosen to be with Brother Eye, or is there a manipulation there? Or what do you think's going on there?
See, I don't know. That was the one that kind of was throwing me.
Me too.
Yeah, because you think about just how noble Frank is. I couldn't see him willingly destroying humanity. So there's got to be some Brother Eye influence to it, but it's unlike everybody else. He looks like he's in control. He looks like this is Frank saying, you know what, Brother Eye, open it. Because even as the line where, Brother Eye showed me, this is, Brother Eye showed me the way. And he's embraced what Brother Eye is preaching. And maybe it's because Frank isn't human. He's an amalgamation of parts, but he's not an actual person. So maybe he could embrace it. But it just doesn't seem like that would be Frankenstein to me. That he isn't that monster. He was always the man of honor, and he had a code to him that a lot of people don't have. So that was the thing that kind of threw me. I thought it was neat, and again, it was that horror gruesome where he opens up his chest and we see just Black Canary's head, face, and he just has her just to take over, just so he's got the canary cry. But I was like, that's just wow, that's beyond cruel.
I think he's got a Borg-like thing going on here, though. Because here, read this page is the one I'm looking at. I once was a monster, but now I am so much more. I used to walk this world alone, but now I am of the many. Now I am part of Brother Eye. I once thought my flesh was dead, unholy, but now I see that it is all flesh that is evil. It must be purged, the world must be cleansed. These are the last days, this is the end. So, has he become like a part of this hive mind that is Brother Eye, and that's what's doing it? And the question will be, going back to what you're saying, is that noble Frank in there somewhere? Are we going to actually have a chance to see that? I don't know that we're going... here's the funny thing. I don't know that we're ever going to get the answer to that question.
See, I was thinking that we're going to get more time travel. I'm thinking within Future's End, we're going to get at least one person come through, and I'm thinking it's going to be Frank.
Coming after him?
Yeah,
after Batman
chasing down Batman. Because I can't just see, again, it's the Terminator story, where one goes back, another one goes back. So you get the two coming through, two people from the future, one good, one evil. And I just got this feeling that we're going to get that from this. And from everybody they've showed, Frank seems like he'll be the one, because he does seem like he's embraced this. He isn't a mindless drone being controlled by Brother Eye. He thinks this is the right thing to do. This is what needs to be done. So I can see Brother Eye having him come back to the past to stop Batman from what he's doing, to stop Batman from ending him.
How is Brother Eye able to do this? Because, the battle I'm thinking of in particular, take a look at the Superman John Stewart battle.
Yeah.
You see, Superman fire at the ring. Jaime I could almost understand just because of the nature of what the beetle is, what the bug is, how it attaches to his back, and it's a part of that. So once you get a hold of all of that, you kind of control both of them. I kind of see how that would be possible to assimilate Jaime. But when you get to John Stewart, he hits the ring. And actually, if you take a look, the ring itself is changed to that symbol, the eye.
Yeah.
So he's actually controlled through that. So is this part of, because Batman did this with Mr. Terrific. Which is another question. How did he do this with Mr. Terrific? Because Mr. Terrific was over on Earth 2.
Right.
So when did all that happen? This is interesting because Batman created... This is the protocols again, obviously, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming. But it looks like in this universe we never had all those Brother Eye stuff.
Right.
So this is the introduction of Brother Eye to this.
But my gosh, when he takes him over... look at John Stewart on the other page, the next page over... where you see Amethyst and Grifter. You see Superman and John Stewart there. Look how quickly John Stewart has turned into this horrific monster version of himself. It's instantaneous. The head's almost detached, certainly telescopic.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a freaky look for him. But
oh, yeah.
The one thing I was thinking of, because I was thinking about how did they get John.
Yeah.
And they always talk about the ring being the greatest weapon in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is something, just because to us it looks like a solid ring, what if there's something else inside it that we can't see or that these heroes have never seen before? They've never been able to break down the actual components of the ring. And maybe it is some giant, not giant, but a super microscopic machine that is actually doing it. So if it's a machine, guess what? Brother Eye can assimilate it. Much like how he was able to assimilate Jaime, he's able to assimilate the this ring, but it had to be a pinpoint precision shot. And if it's Superman doing the shooting, guess what? That's going to be a precision shot because he still is Superman. He still is heightened, visually, etc.
As this is going on, we see Batman. He sent people into battle knowing that they would die, or they would be. Well, you're dead, right? I mean, there's no curing this. Are you taking it that way?
Yeah, there's no way. The whole thing I think he was planning on doing was just trying to stop. If he could shut down the Firestorm Matrix, which was, I guess, the main power source to Brother Eye, and that would give them a fighting chance. Mm-hmm. That was my guess. That was Batman's plan, or Batman's plan all along was a diversion so he could do the time. So he could do the time jump. And this whole thing, everything that was planned here, all these attacks weren't really going to do anything. They were just a diversion, Brother Eye, so Brother Eye wouldn't stop him from jumping in time. Is my guess, actually, how, is his mindset. But again, these are guesses. And I think that's kind of a neat thing where that's something that's going to play out down the line, I think. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe this is just going to... it's weird. I don't know. I say, yeah, maybe it'll play down the line, but I'm like, it can't really because there is no more Bruce who knows about this. Only one who knows about it is Terry, and he only knows what he was told, unless the Alfred system has additional information. I don't know.
I like that the idea was not for Batman Beyond to go back, not Terry McGinnis. It was for Bruce to go back.
Yeah.
And things went horribly wrong. And I like how that plays into the whole story, that's an integral part of causing a greater problem. I always liked Batman Beyond as a concept.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they've brought it into the New 52. Like, this is now part of current canon, that this character exists, which it's a character that belongs. I mean, I think it's really cool. And it's not necessarily that the cartoon is wrapped into canon. It's that this is a version of that story being brought in.
Yeah, and they brought him into the other universe, when they were doing the jumping around the different universes.
Right.
I can't remember what number they identified the Diniverse, but they gave the Diniverse a number, and this was part of that universe.
But what I'm saying now is this is a part of the
regular comic,
the regular Earth. Proper.
Oh yeah. That is a neat factor with everything that's going through this Future's End, that we now have Terry McGinnis in the DC universe. It's not a different another Earth. This is the main Earth has now him in it.
Well, here's the funny part, though. If he goes back through time and corrects this, does that negate him becoming Batman in the future? You know what I'm saying? When you change history, you'll change the timeline, so the future becomes wide open. I'm always a fan of that because you can describe, future should be different paths that you go down. If this event happens, it skews you off to the right. If this event happened, it skews you off to the left. This event happens, you go down the middle. And then there's, like a rainbow, various paths in between, all because of different choices that are made that would then do that. It's, branches. So this is a future if this goes down. If it doesn't go down, this could go very, very differently, what it looks like. That's why that's why you can have different things, like with the Teen Titans going to the far future, different things like that, where those things happen, sure, but that all could have been changed when they came back to present day. I've always liked that the future is not ever set in stone until it actually happens.
There is no fate.
Have you did you see that Romita is coming? Picture of Superman?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for like 2 seconds? Because
sure.
At first, I'm a fan of John Romita Jr.'s artwork. I think just seeing it on Superman for the first time, I was kind of like, I'm into it, I'm excited, but I wasn't like blown away. The more I'm seeing it, the more I'm into it. I don't know if you're having the same experience, or maybe you liked it all along. I saw it on this one, Romita's coming. There's something about it. It like felt like now I see it and it feels very majestic to me, but that wasn't always my experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something very stupid here. Mm-hmm. I initially thought when I saw the Romita's coming, I was thinking he's going to start writing, and I was thinking he was writing Superman.
No, it's Jeff Johns writing.
I know. Well, I realize that now, but so initially I was like, wow, and I'm like, that's what I was trying to think. Okay, for some reason I had it locked in my head that he was writing, even though it says very clearly on there, written by Jeff Johns and writer Jeff Johns, etc. But I'm like, for my initial thought when I first saw the Romita is coming, I was thinking he was writing it. Then later, after a couple other issues, I picked up. I saw, oh, okay, no, Jeff Johns is still okay. He's writing. Oh, okay. I was like, wow, because I never knew him as a writer. I'm like,
Right.
wow, they're starting him off on the big title. They must have a lot of confidence in him, and he's been around for a while. So it's I could see trusting it, but it was still kind of like it kind of threw me. And then when I realized that no, it is artwork, not the writing, I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be kind of cool. This is interesting, and they're teasing it. They're getting us pumped for this, and you got Jeff Johns writing, so he's one of those guys that if his name's on it, I'm in. I'm all in. Let's do this, and I like his artwork, so I'm not one of those guys who goes, oh my god, yay! When it comes to artwork, I do appreciate it and I enjoy it. I'm more of the oh my god, yay when it's a writer. So I still have my more allegiance and understanding on the writing side than on the art side. But I am looking forward to it. I think it's going to be kind of neat.
See, I'm a big fan of both. And when I say both, creative teams being put together. When you've got a top-tier writer and a top-tier artist put together, those partnerships to me are pivotal. You can have one without the other. I've bought books before solely based on the artwork because I really enjoy an artist, where the writing was good, but the story, wasn't matching the quality of the artwork I was getting. But it was worth the investment because I really am invested in the artist. I've also had the opposite, where I've invested in story because of the writer. And the writer's fantastic. I really enjoy their work, but the art wasn't, up to snuff. It was good, not garbage or anything like that. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just it wasn't, to my taste, so to speak. But when you get both, like this is really, I don't know why I wasn't so into it at first. But now when I saw it in this, I don't know, the Romita's coming. This is a good ad.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited.
Yeah.
I was excited on paper for it. Now I'm excited with the visual, which I wasn't before. I don't know why. I just thought it was worth mentioning because I guess I expected to have the visual blow me away the first time around, and it didn't, but now it is. Yeah,
and I think for me, with visual stuffing, because you talk about just like a creative team, I'm more that way, where if the full team is going to get me more excited. But I am still writer focused, but I think the teaser stuff, where it's not more than just a single image, that gets me more excited for artwork. That gets me more excited for the story. Because the teasers that were for Future's End, were really like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, yeah. I wanted to see, I really wanted to read that issue. So to the point where I made sure that I got my free copy, etc.
I like when Terry was talking to Bruce about, Bruce is like, I won't live in Brother Eye's world. Then you and Mr. Terrific should never have built it. And you just see the dead silence there. Because what do you say to that? And even for Bruce, who usually has some form of comeback or usually has the ends justify the means, there's something there. I mean, because he was even saying that earlier, implying that with sending some of his comrades into battle. In this case, he's basically had no comeback for that. This being driven to succeed so this world never comes to pass is a big it's a big story point to going to the past. We actually see this in the Flash right now. We have the older version of Barry coming to present day and justifying things like killing Grodd because that future will not happen if he can stop himself in the past. So it's interesting how you can set yourself on compromising choices that you would normally make if it's for the goal of stopping the future from happening, your present day. That's where time travel can get really dangerous because now you're allowing yourself to give up certain morals because of the fact that you're doing this, which I quite like those types of stories because I kind of question, would I be able to cross lines that I wouldn't normally consider in a million years if?
Yeah, it's the whole road to hell is paved with good intentions type of story, or that logic where you kill one to save thousands, or do you kill one? Because this is interesting because you're like, I'm going to kill this guy now, but it's not actually going to happen, but it did happen. to you, it actually happened. And if you're okay with, dealing with the consequences, dealing with those moral ramifications of taking a life, then that's where the questions go. Because we have this older version of Barry. We have Bruce killing these people. And if, Terry's successful or the Flash is successful and we never have to go through that stuff, somewhere in the universe, somewhere in the cosmos, there is a Bruce Wayne that killed. And if that guy's still around, or if that Flash is still around, then they do have to deal with these consequences. And I think that is going to be where things get interesting on, especially the Flash side, because there is going to be this older Flash who's saying, no, I'm preventing this from happening. But you did it. You actually did take a life. You killed somebody. So you have to be punished for that. But I killed to save this. Like, well, but you still killed. It's still, it's that, what is a rightful death? What is a wrong death? Is there any true, and it's that craziness of the moral compass, that moral, question. Did I actually do something wrong here because I'm going to save all these people? Well, yes, you did something wrong. You did something wrong for maybe noble intentions, but it's still wrong to kill.
Batman versus Batman Inc. was wicked awesome. Now, they killed Batman, right?
Oh, God, yeah. They chopped off his arm, blasted him, and, maybe he's, Brother Eye can bring him back. But I think Batman's dead and dead. He's deader than dead.
Yeah, because that last line where he's saying, this is not why I lived my life, to die like this.
Yeah.
He's pretty much so done there. Except, you talked earlier about who could come back from the future. Will Brother Eye, by assimilating him, if he's able to, because the question will be, can he do it after he's dead? Which right. I'm assuming yes. Will that give Brother Eye information to come back after Terry?
Well, that could be how they find out that what Terry did and where Terry went and what that whole story. But again, they can assimilate Alfred and get it that way as well, because Alfred has the information, unless he took all of Alfred with him. Like that little the wrist thingy is all of Alfred, but it didn't seem like it. That to me seemed like that was just the time jump device.
Right.
So again, we could very easily see, the Borg Batman come through the time jump, because I really do think we're going to get somebody jumping through time. We're going to get something.
Now, who came through with him? Because it was a female. It wasn't Squire, was it?
I couldn't tell, really. It didn't look like Squire, but, came in with them.
Right.
But doesn't have the Squire, it doesn't have the Squire head. So I think there was more than just Batman Inc. attacking. I think that was just a general drone that came through with him.
I guess I'm just not seeing in the rest of the sequences other people other than, well, you're right, though. It could be, maybe people were not, well, because it was, Batwing was there? I think it was Batman Inc., dude. Only. I'm not seeing anybody else in that sequence.
I can't think of her name now. Who was Bruce's bodyguard?
Oh, Bruce's bodyguard when? Sasha?
Yeah, thank you.
But she wasn't in the present continuity. But I don't know. Could be.
Because I don't think it's not Squire. Because I'm looking at issue 1. Because you get she didn't completely die, and you get a close up of the face, and it's not Sasha. I mean, it's not Squire, because it doesn't have the Squire head, and and I'm looking at the face, and the face is like a half cyborg face, which could be what Sasha was. That's why I was thinking Sasha, because she had the half machine, half human.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. So you're going back to the Checkmate portion you're talking about.
The Checkmate version.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Now, here's the worst part. You do this. You give up your timeline, realizing odds are pretty good you're not coming back. And you arrive 5 years later than what you're supposed to. That becomes a big problem, because the whole thing was, we sacrificed everything to send you back to the past for the purpose of ending this future. Now you're doomed to, if you can't find a way to be a roadblock, you're doomed to watch it happen. Because with his age, if that was 35 years in the future, look at Barry Allen there. That means Terry would be able to live through that. Which becomes a huge...
Terrys. There's going to be 2 Terrys.
Right.
Because they'll have his younger version that's born that becomes this version, but then there'll be him who lives through it if he can't stop it, if he doesn't get killed in the process. But I think you think about the plan. They go back into the past, and their plan was to kill Mr. Terrific before he even became anything. That was going to be the plan, to stop Mr. Terrific, to stop Brother Eye from forming. Because Bruce even tells him, "Hey, when you go to the future, don't see myself because he'll stop you." And don't go to Clark because he's not going to like the fact that you're there to kill somebody. So the fact that Mr. Terrific is now around, they can't go with Plan A of kill him. Terry's going to have to figure out a Plan B.
Right. Wow, I'm really digging this so far. I mean, that was just that Zero issue. Now we're getting into the main story where Terry's taking out that cyborg that came along and dealing with it with Alfred. Who's watching him from the window?
I don't know. He's near. Is he near a? Because at first I was thinking he was near one of Mr. Terrific's buildings, and it's someone from in there.
Because the future is now.
Yeah, but that's just a billboard. That's not the actual side of the building.
Right.
But the look of the guy, I'm going to say scientific. Scientific. So if he doesn't completely clean up everything, i.e., take all of the cyborg creature that came through, there's going to be an issue. Because you see the glasses, there's a recorder, obviously. Well, it looks like a recorder. So all this stuff is getting recorded and getting taken down and noted. And, so this could be the linchpin that actually creates all of this.
Now, Hawkman and his amazing friends. I want to say something first. This is a really great rendition of the Hawkman outfit. I really like this. This is to me... the headgear is really the big difference for me on this one. The other one, the New 52 one, I didn't hate it, but it was too ornate. I really like the look of this helmet.
Yeah.
I'm really big on it. I love the armor. I just think it looks very functional. I'm assuming you're kind of in the same mindset as I am, because I think you like the warrior side of him too. So when I see him in armor like this, I like that it's not like a full body armor that takes away motion, but I like that there's shoulder protection, and there's this sense that he can really do some. I like the claws on his hands. There's something very functional about those, while at the same time not losing the fingers. Because sometimes you put them on the fingertips, you lose some functionality to your fingers. I like it better when it's the way that it's set up here. I really whoever did this costume design, this is really a good-looking Hawkman costume design. This is what I want to see from Hawkman. He survived that.
Yeah, that's kind of huge.
He survived that.
Okay. This is all this you got. He must have, or something's else is going to happen, because you got Angie crossing over. You've got Midnighter. You've got Apollo. Well, Apollo gets fried. Mm-hmm. So this is taking out all of Stormwatch. The ship itself is gone, and it looks like it's Brother Eye has successfully taken this over. I'm assuming is Brother Eye, but it's. So they must have done something. There's you think about the gate, but they couldn't jump out the gate because the ship was taken over. So well, it's gonna be a tough one for him to survive. I don't know how he. I honestly do not know how he survived this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
And I'm even any of them. So it's weird because when I was reading this,
but I'm going to say it's Hawkman.
Yeah.
So he has to survive. I'm only saying that because I really love that outfit. So this Hawkman has to survive. Pretty determined about that.
Yeah, and I agree, because Apollo and Midnighter, I don't want to be dead, but Apollo, he's fried. You see the bone fragments, and Apollo's tough, but he can't come back from that one.
Yeah. This is all really, really interesting to me, because now we're seeing in our present day these events starting to unfold.
Yeah. So how do you fix this? And not even say fix it, how do they not be dead? Because Hawkman can't be dead. And actually all of Stormwatch, you can't eliminate these characters. They could, but I'd be like, why? That's wrong. That's a mistake. And even if you go on throughout the issue, at the end of the issue, Green Arrow's dead. So you've got multiple heroes that are big names that are involved in other storylines that are dead. So how does this get fixed? How does this get changed? Because do they do another time jump back even farther?
I don't know. This because it was funny. Jason's and Ronnie's relationship. Just seeing as you're jumping to it, let's talk about it. Jason's basically saying, "Hey, look, you've been shirking on your responsibilities. This is going to cost us. We have power." It goes back to that whole. I know it's an old Spider-Man cliche, but there's a point to it. With great power comes great responsibility. You have the ability to do something, and if you don't do it, you dilly-dally, you delay. This is where we glorify being superheroes. You don't have time. Like, Booster Gold's always an interesting one because he likes the spotlight, likes endorsements, likes being noticed and all that, but that takes you away from good deeds you could be doing, which is why some heroes have very little patience for him. I get the justification.
Yeah. And especially you look at who they are. He's a kid. It's granted, it's not much of an excuse if you have this power. You should be, but I can understand. Especially what they went through with everything that happened with Forever Evil. I can see him saying, "Hey, I need time off of this. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be a normal person. I want to have fun with my lady friend." I can understand his side of it, but again, I'm of the other side where I'm like, you know what? You got to do this, dude. It stinks, but you're the only one who can do this. You've got it's that moral obligation. If you have the potential and if you have the ability to stop this horrific stuff, you have to step up and do it.
Yeah, that would be one of those things. And there's a heroic side, there's a villain side, then there's the ambivalent side. And that's always interesting when you kind of see somebody like Jason who so wants to be the hero. Ronnie, who we know's got it in him, but you want to smack him upside the head because sometimes he gets a little too into being Ronnie the star, which never plays nice. I like the relationship there between the two of them. I also quite liked the Firestorm outfit in this.
Yeah.
He's a character who I've always enjoyed, and I liked this variation on the outfit. I don't know why. It just, something struck me. I would love to know the backstory of how it wound up this way.
Yeah, and again, I like the fact that we have this serious stuff going on, but they did give us time to have a little bit of light moments where Ronnie's into being the hero when there's the pretty girl. "Hey, just doing my part, ma'am. Just glad I could help." You can see him smooshing. We know what he's doing and we know why he's doing it. And even Jason will call him on it. And I thought that was a little light moment, especially the fact that light moment leads to this massive nasty reveal. Even the little joke when he's turning the debris into a gas is like, "Don't make it, not hydrogen," because there's so much flame and explosion. He's like, "I know. Thanks for the tip, genius. Like, I wouldn't know enough to change it to helium." I like that little banter between them because that little funny moments, you get this horrific visual of Green Arrow being dead. Mm-hmm. Now, my other question I was thinking about is this is a Green Arrow with long hair, a beard, etc. Now, this is taking place
5 years later.
Yeah, okay, so this is not present. It's 5 years from present. Correct? Or is this taking place... That's where I was kind of confused on the timeline.
Let me go back to the Free Comic Book Day issue. Times Square 5 years from now. He showed up in Times Square 5 years from now. Okay. That's how it was billed. So it's 5 years from the present continuity that he shows up.
Okay, see, so once again, we can very easily, kill off a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, Hawkman may not be, sorry, I hate to tell you this, buddy, but I don't see how,
He was in that teaser, though. That one, When Futures End, the Blood Moon Shall Rise. He was there, Midnighter was there, and Apollo.
Okay.
We had that Robin as well, and Booster Gold.
Okay.
Batman Beyond, and Batman from the future, which doesn't mean anything. These could all be teasers to stuff that we kick off with in the first issue. Cadmus is in there as well.
Yeah.
So, was that Cadmus that Batman Beyond landed outside?
Oh, definitely could be Cadmus, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Or Cadmus, somebody from Cadmus that was at least catching him. I don't know. it's interesting speculation. Wow. So, did it get you excited? I mean, like, God, yeah. I'm very in.
Yeah, and I knew something was, with this. I didn't have as much details on this one.
No.
So, as I said, the zero issue on Free Comic Book Day, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, dang, this is neat. And then when I jumped into this, I was like, holy crud. And I'm seeing all this body count. And then I was like, okay, is this taking place not current or in the future of current? And so that was the only question. But knowing that it is, future, like 5 years from now, this definitely is going to lead into the 5-year jump that they were talking about doing. So this is going to be kind of huge, man. I'm wondering what the heck they're going to do if they're killing off a bunch of people.
Yeah. I'm very interested in this. It's a cool opening to a series. I was excited for this.
We're going to continue on with Teen Titans Annual Number 3. The writer is Scott Lobdell. Pencils by Kenneth Rocafort and R.B. Silva and Tom Derenick. Inks by Vicente Cifuntes and Vincente Cifuentes. Colors by Blonde and Hi-Fi with letters DZ Cienti with cover by Kenneth Rockford. Assistant editor is Anthony Marquet with editor Mike Cotton. A group editor Eddie Berganza. Superboy was created by Jerry Siegel by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family.
I like the artwork of Kenneth Rocafort a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if I'm butchering the name or not when I'm doing that, and I apologize if I am because I really, really dig it. I just think it's a good look for this series. Now, we're at the end of this. This annual is really the conclusion and sums up quite a bit. It goes back to the very beginning of this run and really closes up everything, taking us back to Tim's original motivations, which I guess one thing that really struck me in this annual, I didn't realize, and they did have this in the beginning, so this is just me who didn't realize it, that he directly left Batman in order to pursue this. Like, this was his intention for leaving Batman. It wasn't that he left Batman and he found this path after leaving him. He left Batman with the intention of pursuing this because he saw this coming.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, I know. That was I'm glad they really put that home. They hammered that home and made sure we realized it. Because when the Titans started, I did kind of question what was going on. Why did he leave? I do remember when everything first began thinking that Tim left. And then after he left, it was one of those things where he walked away from being a hero. But no, I can't. I have to do this. And it's good to see that this was, the plan all along, because that's kind of Tim's mindset, that he does think 3 steps ahead. He does hate, I've always said he was the heir to the bat just because he has that mindset. He has that same, style to him that Bruce always had, where be prepared for everything. And I always saw those traits in Tim, so I was glad to see that they really made sure that this is why Tim left Batman. This is why Tim formed the Titans. This has all been about this. So this is a nice bookend to this full story that is Teen Titans.
Yeah, I think so too. And it really is kind of a full circle. One of the things that I think has been a highlight of this series for me is when we get a Tim focus.
Yeah.
Because when we get a Tim focus, I start to see the character again that I've been missing in the New 52. Like, that was a really pivotal point. When I say missing in the New 52, I mean missing his history. So when we start to see that this guy, he did have a history with Batman, and there were some, it's not the rich history that we're used to, but there is a definitive history there. They really did a great job in this issue of bringing it to light, bringing his role as a leader of the Titans to light, because I like him in that capacity. I quite like his relationship with Cassie in this.
Yes, me too.
This issue in particular, you mentioned hammering home. There's things in this issue that were hammered home that I'm really glad. First of all, they closed up and summarized certain things, but they also hammered home certain things that we needed to know about the characters in order to move forward, which is interesting to view this issue this way, because it really does a nice job of closing off everything from before and leaving us open to a potential future for these characters.
Yeah, and again, I really did like this Teen Titans version, this iteration, this story, because when it first started, I was comparing it obviously to the Jeff Johns run, which I absolutely loved. So it's hard to compare something to something you absolutely love, and it's always going to fall a little bit short if you, especially you have these high hopes, like, oh my god, comparing to the best. So I think when it was first started, I was enjoying it. I was like, man, this is cool. I got to see some neat Tim moments, and I got to see the team, but there was always something kind of missing. And as the series went on, I started really getting that, to the point where when I realized, okay, this is ending now, I'm like, what? Come on, they're just now getting the groove. They're just getting this going. Let's keep this. We got some neat stuff happening here, and we've got these just craziness that's happening to these teens with Harvest, with the culling, with all this horrific stuff happening to these teenage heroes. I'm like, we're starting to get through that. Let's continue. Let's maybe see what else these guys have. So knowing there's going to be another Titan story coming down the line, I'm like, okay, good. But this was kind of a really awesome issue, but it was kind of like sad to me because I wanted to see this team continue on. I wanted to see, the Tim and Cassie story and see what would actually happen between them. How is it going to happen? Skitter, the fact that she's now back on the team, and Raven, the influence from Trigon has been cleared. So what's going to happen there? Is it going to be the brooding Raven that I kind of like, or is this going to be a Raven exploring new life, trying to figure out stuff, and just what's going to happen to these people, these characters that I've gotten so used to and I've really started enjoying, especially Bunker. God,
in July, Bunker's in the team.
Yeah.
So is Wonder Girl. So is Beast Boy. So is Raven.
Yeah.
And obviously Red Robin.
Yeah.
That's not to say that they're all who are going to be on the team. But those are the ones that I'm seeing on the cover.
Yes. But is that just the cover art to...
Well, they're not going to throw a different team on there.
Or is that See, I'm wondering, part of me is worried that that's a transition. That's going to be the initial team, but that's not going to be the new Titans. I hope not. I hope we get the continuation of this story, but I'm like, I don't know, why are they... Because to me, if they're going to continue the story or continue these characters, why not just continue them? Why stop and start new?
Probably because of the reason that Marvel does it from time to time, and all companies do. There's probably been some drop-off in Teen Titans sales, and by starting with a new number one, you have an opportunity to catch some new readers.
Yeah.
It's a reality. I mean, if you look traditionally the way comic series work, the issue number one, and two in particular, but one obviously, two starts to begin the drop-off to a little bit closer to what the actual numbers are going to be, but it's an opportunity to pick up some new potential readers. And it may be that, this is, again, me making an assumption. I don't follow sales numbers. I just don't. I pick up books that I enjoy. I want them to keep, selling. I'm a comic reader. I don't really, and this is no insult to anybody who does. There's a lot of comic fans that really, really enjoy following numbers. And if you're one of those that's listening, I'm not insulting you in any way, shape, or form. It's just never been my thing. Now, when people talk about it, I'll use a great example. John Mayo, who does, the Comic Book Page podcast, used to come on Comic Geek Speak a lot and talk about it. And that was the first time I got to know him. I always enjoyed hearing him talk about the numbers. When somebody explains it to me or is having a conversation about it, then I'm interested. I'm not the type of person that's interested in pursuing it myself, but if somebody with knowledge is talking about it, I'm in. I think that's interesting. So that's where I get interested, but it's not something that I seek out myself or have a hobby in. I do like knowing, kind of how my books are doing, in the sense that hoping that they do well, but I don't let that really influence. But that's why, let's be honest, we know number ones sell really well. So relaunching the series, that's why they're doing it. And it could be that there's a drastic, as you see from here, this is really a closure. So it may be just that they're hoping this will get new readers.
Yeah, again, very honestly, yes, it probably definitely could be, and I don't know, part of me wishes they wouldn't, but I understand why they are, and I'm still going to get number one, and I'm going to continue on, and so it's not going, so it's tough, but it's not unbearable because the story is going to continue, these characters are going to continue on, so it's not going to end, but I don't know, you look at like an ending of a team, the breakup of the team and how they're approaching it, and I love the one opening page with Tim looking at the burning yacht, and he's like, man, I hope that yacht wasn't going to survive when he turned a blind eye to my appropriating it from Wayne Enterprises. And just again, that nice little little comedic moment, but it is a bit of on the serious side, and you're talking about just the ending of the team, and even him, and Cassie just saying, "Hey, this is the end. Is this the end of us, or is this the end of the team? What's going to actually happen here?" And I like, it had that really cool finale feel to it.
Now, Cassie, one of the things that I really liked about this series, she started off in the beginning, and I really wasn't sure how I felt about her. Because I was a big fan of Cassie before.
Yeah.
As the series progressed more and more, I got to know this one. She gradually started becoming more like the Cassie that I know and love. I like that they didn't just drop that she was this thief beforehand, though. That's still a part of her. That sense of, boy, it's hard to put a single word on it. I want to say adventure, but it's not as simple as that. It's a danger, too.
Yeah.
That attraction that it's kind of like what Catwoman gets as well. You can see why Cassie is still drawn to it. And it's an interesting balance that she has to have when she talks to Tim about that stuff. I quite like that. But I like that this is not the same abrasive person that there was in the beginning. I think that's what I'm really trying to get at. Like, I like Cassie now.
Yeah.
Whereas in the beginning, she wasn't likable.
Yeah, and she was, the standoffish. And I'm glad you brought up the Catwoman comment. Because you think about, Bruce and Catwoman, Tim and Cassie. I thought that was kind of a neat, I don't know, and I don't know if they intended that to go that way, but again, it fits these personalities, because Bruce and Tim do have very similar personalities, very similar personal traits in how disciplined they are and how focused they are, so they would be more attracted to the wilder side. They would have more attraction to that, the female that's not like them, who's not the meticulous, okay, let's get this going here, and have that same type of logic that they have. He would need to get a little bit wilder, and I think that's a part of the reason these two have this connection. And I really love the fact that, she's talking about how she never wanted to call herself Wonder Girl, not because she didn't want to be a hero. She didn't believe in the Titans, but because she was a little bit intimidated to share a name with an actual demigod that she's never met before. I'm cautious. Sue me. I love that line because, again, it's, kind of hammering some stuff home that she does have that hero in her. She does have those moments, and she did believe in the Titans. She didn't want to go by the code name. She didn't want to be Wonder Girl because, hey, it's Wonder Woman, I've never met the person before. How can I call myself her sidekick? How can I call myself the junior version of her without her blessing? I thought that was a neat realization.
I'm starting to like this Raven, where I really was not liking this Raven.
Yeah.
And this is my own baggage, I was a big fan of the classic Raven. And her story was always one of tragedy. She was constantly fighting against Trigon. Because she did go to the dark side at one point, but it was after years of fighting that because she wanted to stop Trigon. She was a big factor in bringing the Titans together against Trigon the first time around. So with this one, the costume has taken a lot for me to get used to, but also just the tone that she was evil. She was helping Superboy. There were certain things that she was doing, that would make you question, your ability to trust her and all that, quite a bit. Now, where she's at now, how it's kind of evolved, I really like her in this state. And this is a good sense of closure to put her in a place where I want to see what she's going to do moving forward. She really is going to be a fish out of water because, now trying to acclimate and be a part of this world. I like seeing her with Wonder Girl because I used to like the Raven and Starfire relationship.
Yeah.
So seeing her with Wonder Girl in this and them building that friendship, that's something that's important that you need to see with Teen Titans. You need to see these characters becoming friends. I need to see more of that relationship in this because that is what I like about the Titans. So I look at this as a gradual evolution, and I think that's why it's also a good point to say let's, give us a jumping off point to a new series with them, with a new status quo. Interesting that Beast Boy is red here, but he's green on the cover. I don't know if that's the way he's going to be, or if that was a mistake, but he was green on that cover for the new series. So
that is curious, because I like him red because of the explanation with the connection to the red.
Right.
So if he's going to be green, I hope they address why he's now green.
Yeah.
Because, it's not easy being green. I had to do it. Is that how you get you get the angel on one shoulder and you get the devil on the other shoulder, well, in my case, both were telling me to do it, so I get no one telling me not to. But I want to do a quick comment though on something you said with the Raven look.
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge fan of the traditional Raven look.
Yeah,
and it's just artistic preferences and just nothing knocking the current one. I do like the current one. I like the fact that they did tweak stuff and they had fun with it and let the creators do their own thing with the New 52 and actually go with this. But I gotta say I think I'm a bigger fan of the classic Raven look than the current look.
Me too.
I think it's part of just I was really introduced in that look, and there's always something about that. But the one thing I do want to say that I've loved that they've always done throughout this, and it's on the the voice bubbles. With her, everyone's got the clean line. With her, there's always that little shakiness to it.
Yeah.
And they'll do the little shakiness to the lettering sometimes, especially when she was really evil. They really shakened it and they darkened it, and the lettering and throughout the Teen Titans with her has been awesome because her voice still has that that sound to that little gruff sound to it that I always picture. Every time I read Raven, I always picture from the animated stuff that voice coming through, and with the way they did the lettering, it kind of it kind of brings it home. And I thought that's something cool. But again, another great reveal was the fact that they always knew that Raven was evil. They always knew that Trigon had planted her in there. And Bunker just says, hey, we knew all along. Why do you think Robin let you on the team? To keep an eye on you and to help you. This is what we do. So don't worry about it. You're one of us. You've always been one of us. Even when you were evil, we were going to help you. And it had to be Bunker telling her this because Bunker is such a cool guy and everybody immediately trusts him because that's just the kind, that's just who he is. He's that character that everybody is friends with and everybody trusts and everybody knows Bunker's not going to steer me wrong. And I thought that for me was a really cool, just a great way to reveal it.
He's a character who really grew on me.
Oh God, yeah.
You and I were in different places on Bunker because I know you've always been an advocate for him. When the series started, I kind of thought, oh, Bunker's kind of cheesy. I just wasn't into the character. As you got to know him as the series progressed, though, and they really, especially his relationships with Superboy early on, and then, now this bit with Raven was brilliant with him.
Yeah. And I've always been a fan of him, but I got to tell you, even that grew.
Yes.
Because that was something that I thought was great because I liked the fact that he was that comic relief. He was that little bit of edge comedy because Beast Boy really didn't have the comedy in the beginning, so they had Bunker. But then I started seeing, no, this is a kid who has these powers who wants to be a hero, who wants to do the right thing, who's in this for the right reasons. And I started seeing that with him. He was green around the gills, so he had the, it was kind of like how Spidey always used to throw out the one-liners because he was so nervous and so scared and he didn't really know what he was doing. I always saw that with Bunker. And then as he started getting his confidence, he still did the little comedic moments, but there was those moments where he's like, hey, it's time to throw down. And he was that guy. If I'm going into battle, I want him watching my back, not only just because of his power levels, but because he's a guy that's not going to quit on me. I don't have to worry about him running. I don't have to worry about him saying, it's too tough. He's going to keep fighting as long as I'm in the fight. He's got my back. And that's something that, as really grew and really started seeing those cool moments with him. And I just, again, I really, he's one of those characters that I'm like, this is outstanding.
Confidence. When you use that word confidence, that's what started to make him grow on me. When it wasn't that he was just comic relief, when he started to have more confidence. And you started to see him more as a member of the team instead of the newbie.
Yeah.
That was when I started to really like him. I'm like, oh, wait. And especially when we started to see him experiment with his powers.
Yeah.
Like, at first I was kind of like, oh, really? This is the power set that he's got? He just seemed generic to me. He just did. I didn't hate him or anything. I took him as being... They're putting a newer character on the Titans for the sake of having somebody new. He's going to be this new background character that's there. I'm really loving everybody else on the team, getting to getting to know the current versions of some of my favorite characters and how they fit out of this team. Red Robin was always my linchpin. You know, he was the guy that, like, I needed to latch onto Red Robin because Tim was Tim. Tim was the one that felt like the Tim before the New 52. The rest of the characters, it was getting to know them in relation to this universe through Tim's eyes. I really felt like I was riding through this series mainly with Tim's eyes until a certain point, and then certain characters started clicking with me more as time went on, and I started to get more attached to the story of Wonder Girl and her armor, Superboy and his relationship with the team, Kid Flash, Solstice, the new version of Solstice. You know, all that stuff was starting to grow on me as the series went on. And then Bunker. Bunker, with the character who was behind the scenes for me, I really began to dig. Raven was one of the ones that took me a long time to get a hold of, too. It's really now at the end that I'm starting to like Raven, whereas I didn't previously. I didn't like the whole shenanigans with Superboy. I wasn't supposed to, but, you know, that was where I was really missing Raven. It didn't make me hate the book. I liked the book. It just was, I didn't like this version of Raven, and I wanted to see the team catch her and beat her. You know, I mean, not beat her in the sense like physically. I mean, you know, thwart her, stop what she was.
Defeat the evil you wanted to see. Yeah,
that's what I really wanted to see from it, because this wasn't my Raven. I like that it's evolved to the point where, like, I'm into Raven again, and this is cool. You know, I'm anxious to see, because she's so fresh to the world, her relationship with Kat. I hope that's something that Will Pfeiffer continues to explore in his run coming up, because I think it's interesting to see what their relationship's like. You got to bring that family aspect back in with the team, because Tim talks about that. Did we become a family? I'm not sure. You know, he's kind of it seemed like that was one of his intentions that he was regretting, and he wasn't sure if he ever really quite got there. I liked that. You know, you're reminiscing about this team that you brought together and what you had hoped for them, you know, to give them a direction, which is interesting when you talk about a guy who comes from the dysfunctional Bat family. No, and I actually quite liked that. You know, his sense of family is very different than what ours would be.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah. And it's funny, as you're talking, I'm sitting there getting to know them, getting to know all about them. And I'm sitting here dancing and singing in my head. Mm-hmm. And once again, I've got both the angel and the devil on my shoulder saying, do it. So, hey, guess what? You're going to get some singing. But, you know, there is that about getting this comfort level with these characters.
Jim, there's no angel that's saying.
I'll tell you, people love my singing. People love my singing.
Well, those people clearly have
deaf,
issues with their hearing.
You know,
yeah, I mean, oof.
The hearing impaired, you know. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more of the people enjoy your suffering as opposed to my singing.
That's what you think it's people are out to get me?
I think so. I think.
All right. You know what? I'll actually buy into that as a valid justification.
But
go ahead.
The one character that I was so glad they brought back, Danny the Alley.
I really quite like that too. It was. Did you forget about that character?
You know, actually, I did.
I did too.
I completely forgot about him until once they like Danny. I'm sitting there going, yeah, because when they first had Danny the Alley, I was actually hoping that Danny was going to get transferred into the building. Mm-hmm. You know, get transferred into Titan Tower. And so they would have a living tower. And it would be Danny the Tower. You know, Danny would be Titan Tower or their Titan Base or something. So when Danny became a street and wasn't anything around anymore, I was like, oh, man. Dang it. And it just went away. And I never thought about Danny again. And then they bring back Danny the Alley. And so hopefully, again, this is another character. Hopefully, maybe the next run, they'll bring back Danny the Alley. Maybe he will become Danny the Titan Building, a living Titan building or something. I think that'd be a neat, again, you know, characters like this, you got to have a little bit of fun with them. You can't be afraid to have kind of a little bit of, a little bit of a far-fetchedness to it. A little bit of the really, it's fun. It's neat. Comic books can be fun and should be fun. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, let's have a little bit of fun with it. It's not like it's going to be every single moment's going to be something, slapsticky or goofy like this. It has its bits. It has its parts in there. It's a panel on the page. You see Bunker hug the trash the trash bin. Say, Danny, is it you? Again, these are just a really cool panel, especially the others who no idea who this is. What's going on here? This is before my time. It's a little weird, because they never had any dealings with Danny before.
Danny was saying yes, but stop hugging me there. I like the whole moments later bit when we find out that Harvest is out there, and Tim's like, listen, I know we're at this stage, we're ready to go our separate ways, but this is the reason why we were brought together, and we have got to end this. Everyone gets into their battle gear and ready to go. A very different team. It's a mishmash of a team, but the people that are here all have a reason to go after Harvest.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of people that had something to do with them. It's funny. I really like the red version of Beast Boy here. I can't help but wonder if that wasn't a cover mistake on that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see going forward what ends up happening. I don't know that whether I care about green or red, except for the fact that I agree with you. It kind of makes more sense now with the red, being
the animal kingdom. Yeah.
Right. That there is that tie to Animal Man. I'd be fine with that.
And again, we kind of quickly pass over this one panel, though, where they're all saying they're in.
Yeah.
Again, Beast Boy's got that, I'm in. He killed a lot of my friends. I'm ready to return the favor. And you got Skitter's like, he's a bad man. I'm in. Bunker, once again, I'll help, but I won't kill. We don't have the right. I like the fact that we get this distinction.
Wait, don't stop. Don't stop there. I was going to say.
Raymond, I do. In fact, I'd be happy to.
And Cassie, when have we ever run from a fight?
Yeah.
What I really like about that is, and I'd recommend this annual for anybody, kind of like wants to get a feel for this team. It's probably a good kind of prelude to what's coming. Because really on that page, you get to know a lot of these characters. Which I don't know if Skitter's going to be on the new team. But certainly everybody else sitting there is going to be.
Yeah. Well, again, Skitter I hope is, because Skitter's cool. But they show, I don't know. What's going to be the new team? What's going to be the actual makeup? The cover shows these core characters that I'm like, yes, cool, all right. But are they going to be completely around as it continues? I don't know yet.
I have a couple that I would dream ones that I'd like to see. I'd like to see Aqualad.
Yeah.
If they don't bring back Bart and Solstice, I would like to see Wally West become Kid Flash at some point and be on this team.
Yes.
So that would be kind of my dream of where it would go. But I'm very open-minded to see what they do. I'm glad that there's going to be a Teen Titans continuing. Because I've enjoyed this book. I know I've been critical of certain things. And that's really more the fan in me that loves the classic Teen Titans. Going all the way back to its beginning. I'm talking about before Wolfman and Perez. Because I grew up as a kid on knowing who the Teen Titans were. I didn't read every issue, but I read quite a bit and quite enjoyed them. But I remember that more from my childhood. You hit a certain age where things start to really sink in. And for me, that was the Wolfman and Perez era. And that's why there's certain characters like Raven that I have a particular fondness for. And that's where a lot of that comes from. But this series, woof, the whole bit where they break into that location where Harvest is at, and you see people alive who weren't, that somehow Harvest has been collecting them for some purpose. It's interesting.
Taking away their powers.
Yeah, exactly. That was really the whole point of all this.
Well, and I love the fact that when we first start seeing all these really nasty characters, we see some dead ones. Artemis was dead and she's back. We're seeing, what was her name? Omen. She's another nasty one. No, she's back now. She doesn't have her power. She's safe. Colonel, everybody, all these people that, and especially Ridge. I was so happy that Ridge wasn't dead, because that just tore me up when they actually killed him. When they killed him, when Deathstroke killed him, that kind of because this is this little kid who was trapped in this monster's body, and he finally got back to being a kid, and then he gets killed. Well, he's back to being a kid again, and now it's without the power, so everything's good for him. And it was this great moment seeing him and Beast Boy hug. But this whole time, you're like, something ain't right here. And even when they're in the room, they're all looking at it, Bunker's being optimistic. Cassie's casing the place for something to steal. Beast Boy, I love his unnerving line when he sees all the dead animals' heads mounted. And Raven's suspicious, and Red Robin is cautious. I like just these quick little emotional stuff, little blip from all of them. But again, you got to make sure you don't want to just blindly jump and say, "Oh, everything's great, okay." No, you got to have some suspicion. You got to have such that professional skepticism. I love that.
Here's the problem with a cure. A cure is all well and fine if you're doing it for benevolent purposes and it's for people who want to be cured. People don't want to be cured. You have no right to do it.
Right.
Because what are you curing them from? If that's a part of them and they want to keep it, you have no right to take it from them.
Well, and yes, but again, there was the sum where the powers were corrupting the mind. Mm-hmm. Like, we saw some evil people who that power had corrupted them. By taking away the power, they're like, hey, I'm actually really a nice person.
That's the difference. If there comes a point in time where, are they a good person that the power has corrupted? Or are they a corrupt person that you have manipulated? That's a fine line as well.
Yes.
And you can get into a lot of morality with that end of it. I agree with you if it's a good person that's been corrupted, that absolutely you should do that. And that should be your end goal. It should be to give this person a chance at people getting to know them for who they really are and them having their life back that they lost at some point. But behavior modification and stuff like that, you run into some sketchy areas with that, morality-wise. And I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I could see you getting into a real debate. It'd be interesting to sit around a table, like if we had that kind of technology available to behavior modify a criminal.
Yeah.
It's what's okay and what's not. Is it okay to take away free will and then unleash somebody back on society? Because you've done that then.
Yeah. And, because it's, when you think about behavior modification, you think about, brainwashing. Everyone always thinks the negative side to it. But if you could do a positive way with it, because you talk about how with a criminal, if I could take away all of their violent behavior, if I can take away a person who was this, monster who used to kick kittens, if I could take that away from him, make him this decent, nice person who, was, generous and kind, well, that's a good thing to do, but is it? And that's the question.
Where do you stop, though?
Yeah, exactly. Who's the definition of what's right? Mm-hmm. For example, I am I know you are as well, a very strong proponent of free speech. Mm-hmm. I'm to the point where, I don't think, to say you have to ban hurtful speech. Well, guess what? If you ban hurtful speech, you're banning speech. You got to let the people have that freedom to say it. So you have the freedom to disagree with it. You have the freedom to express your opinion against what they're saying. That's the true strength of freedom of speech, that we all can say stuff. I'm going to say stuff that's going to offend somebody. I'm going to say something that's going to hurt someone's feelings. Well, guess what? I've got that right to say it, just like you have the right to fire back at me, saying, hey, you're an idiot for thinking that. This is just, this. And it's that open dialogue. And, who's to say what is, good, what is right? Even you throw out some of the very hardened words that, there's nothing positive about this word. Well, guess what? Yes, it's a hateful word. It's an angry word, but you still can't ban it. You still have to let those people who are going to say that word say the word, because once you start banning those words, once you start banning, where does the line get drawn? And that's the danger behind, the mind control, danger behind behavioral modification, danger behind censorship. These are some tough stuff, and I like the fact that they do kind of go into that with this. They do, Harvest has been saying all along, I'm going to make these, children strong enough so that these evil metas in the future won't run amok and won't destroy life. And now he's coming back saying, no, I was wrong about this. Tim, you made me see the error of my ways. I love the fact that how they played this out. And this was a great mind game that he was playing against, Tim against the Titans. This was one of those really cool, because you're sitting there thinking, is this real? Is this real, or is this the last giant swerve? And I loved how this played out.
Yeah. It's funny when we talk about that debate as far as behavior modification. Would you use it on Cassie?
Yeah, that's she's
Do you see
stealing stuff.
do you see where I'm going with that?
Oh God, yeah. Would you use it on Catwoman? That's a good person who likes to take pretty things, but she's got the code. Would you use it against? What's the level of stealing? Oh, stealing's wrong. Well, is it really? You get the people who are stealing a loaf of bread to feed their children. So that's technically stealing.
Cassie's not doing that.
No, she's stealing pretty things because she likes baubles, and Catwoman's stealing pretty things because she likes baubles. But
here's the thing: do you use behavior modification on people like that to take away their free will, or is there some consequence that should happen to her, which is the way our legal system works, where she has to learn from what she did, then she can come back into society, learning the error of her ways. Do you? I'm saying. I mean, it's.
And you can't there's Yeah. And how much of the personality are you going to actually take away? Mm-hmm. Like you take away her little behavior. You take away Catwoman's little behavior. Guess what? You're taking away a bit of the energy that they have. You're taking away a little bit of their style, and they use that when they're doing good. They use that when they're actually fighting the bad guys. They have that that adrenaline. That it's part of who they are. So if you take away that stealing, you take away the thievery. Are you going to take away something from the character? Are you going to take away something from the hero? So by stopping this bad thing, are you hurting the good?
Yeah. That becomes a huge, huge problem. And I really like that, because when you start talking about the powers now, let's take it back to the powers, because we only talked about that as being in the case of criminals, that their power was influencing them. These weren't all, that was a small group. Right. Of the characters that was done with here. There were people here who had their powers that their powers were a threat to no one. They just happened to have a useful power that maybe could help somebody, could help them, but it wasn't hurting somebody else necessarily. And they could have been using it for benevolent purposes or maybe just carrying on their daily life. Harvest was harvesting those powers for the purpose of, because Harvest believed that the metas were bad and destroying humanity. It really is very X-Men in its presentation, in the sense that, we're saying, let's, get rid of the muties. Well, in this case, let's get rid of anybody with the meta gene. It's got a real problem with that, because who has a right to say that? And where do you stop with that? Once we take the power from all these people, what else do we change?
Exactly.
There's a very fine line of morality with that, which I love stories like this. Whenever you start exploring morality and start exploring, which people with powers do you take them from? Do you take them from everybody? Do we just clean wipe them? Well, then once we do that, what else do we go after? Because once you develop that type of technology, it'll have other applications.
Yeah, you talk about the slippery slope. What is going to be the final ramifications of this? And I love the fact that we get these kind of questions as the team's going through. Is he telling the truth? Is he lying? Can we trust him? Can people change? And we saw Raven changed, but is this the same deal? Are we getting played? And this was, again, those cool moments of the team dialogue, the team banter, because these guys do know each other. They're being very open. Gar is very furious. Skinner's like, hey, I vote he's lying through his teeth. Gar's like, you can't have compassion for this guy. He is a monster. He's coming for us. We need to take the fight to him right now. And it's the personal experiences. I loved seeing these different beliefs and these different banters. And of course, it does come down to, because, Tim was trained by the Bat. Drilled into trust, but verify. And when I read that line, it was a moment, I stuck the hands up and I hooped and hollered, because that was something, that was a Tim moment, that's a Bruce moment, that's a cool Bat moment. But again, it is a Teen Titan moment. Once he told that everybody's in line, everybody's ready to do what the job they have to do. When he had, Raven searching for something, looking for a scan the area, while he discussed the colonel's offer, look and verify, see what you find. There's something here, something alive. And I love great team dynamic that they're trusting their leader, and bam, now they're in combat mode. It's fight mode, time to go.
Yeah. I like Harvest's story a great deal. And I'm glad that it was summed up here.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a lengthy story. I think it needed to be a lengthy story. Throughout this, Ravagers, different things like that they were doing with these characters. It spun out into a lot of things. And I think that's one of the reasons why you need a relaunch as well. Like, the Harvest era has come to a close. Now we're moving on to something new.
True. And again, that's a neat, they are doing a clean house, and it is going to kind of take things another way. But it also adds to my feelings. I wish this was still all continuing, because in future, if they ever bring back Harvest or they ever bring Notion, there'll be a little editor's note. See issue number, Teen Titans Annual number 3, or see Teen Titans number 30. How do you do a crossover if it's a new series? Or, I don't know.
Why can't you?
Oh, they still can, but it always seems,
Teen Titans Volume 1, issue number.
Yeah.
You can still do that. So, and I agree with you with the reference. If you need to, you can still reference things from this. Yeah. I'm not looking this as, like, all of a sudden when they do Teen Titans number 1, I'd be actually sorely disappointed if they act like none of this happened. It just really is a way of distinguishing new status quo.
Right. Yeah, I'm assuming they're not doing a wiping the slate clean. This is a continuation of what we're seeing right now. So again, I say I'm sad to see it go, but it's not really going away. So I'm happy. It's just, they're doing the rebooting of the numbering and just the refreshing of it. And, we'll probably get some new people on the team, which is all, change is good. Change is good in a book. I'm going to embrace change.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's, you know what? There's one thing we would be making a huge mistake if we don't reference this, Superboy.
Oh, yeah.
This is where we find out what happened to our Superboy. I was hoping he'd come back. And he still can, but he's going to come back as the Herald now. What do you think about that?
Well,
the Herald of the Oracle.
Now, is he in the blue, or is he next to...
The blue.
That was the thing I was kind of confused on.
The blue.
He is the guy in blue. Okay.
Yeah. I took it as the person next to him is his remembering that guy.
Okay.
That's who he used to be, his humanity, the one who had friends. I looked at that as being a memory. I get why you would say that.
But it does very clearly say on the page, "For I died and have been reborn as the Herald of the Oracle."
Right.
So together we patrol the past, present, and future. So he is still around. He's still in the timeline. And he could very easily come back. Now, will he? I don't know, because he's got a very important job here. But they did give us the closure on him. So, what's going to happen with him? I don't know. He definitely could make an appearance, and I kind of would like it because I did like the Superboy. I did like Khan, and again, he was a character I so loved. Connor Kent from the previous versions. This new one was coming through. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of neat, and I was seeing him grow and become more, of the Connor that I knew, and I was like, this is going to be neat, and then they kill him off. I'm like, no, but he's not completely dead. I'm like, oh, okay. So now there's still the hope that he could come back.
I like the sense of closure where they kind of told where everybody was. The one, obviously, the sequence I loved the most was seeing Red Robin and Bruce.
Yes.
Bruce, it's good to be back. I don't disagree, Tim. Just that was a geek out. And don't get me wrong, I liked everything else. They were quick little tidbits. Their Superboy getting the reveal of where he is was really important to me, just to kind of get an idea of what that was. And then at the end, that just kind of, for that one brief shining moment in time, we were Titans. And just kind of a sense for all of us that have been reading this since the New 52 started, a sense of closure on this chapter and the beginning of a new one. They did a really nice job in this issue of closing it up and putting the book in a place where issue number 1 can kick off. We're on board because our status quo. I'm a fan of this. Don't drop us out of a storyline and into a new series with these characters without putting us in a place where they can go in a new direction. This really did a nice job of putting them in a place where they can go in a new direction. And that's important.
Yeah. And I did like seeing that, Bunker and Beast Boy are still together, and they even, they're showing with the, he took the financial support from the Commodore seed money, and he's running with it. So we can see where the next version of the Titans are going to come from. And I'm assuming that's how the next Titans, story is going to be based out of this, with him calling in, getting help from his old team, and maybe that's going to be the birth of the new Titans book.
Yeah. There's all kinds of different ways that we can do that.
And of course, still showing us that with everything going on with with Kid Flash and Solstice and all that stuff, with them on the planet. So because we got that cool issue in issue 30 where they showed Bart there still with his still with his powers and still fighting the fight and saying, you know what, this is a bad planet. We're on a prison planet, but we're going to turn this around because we are Titans. Mm-hmm. And I love his positive, that we didn't lose that positive Bart Allen. We're going to still get, him. And maybe down the line, who knows? Maybe, he'll be able to escape. Maybe he will be able to, fix up that planet or do something more with it. I don't know. But again, it just like with showing us where, with Superboy is, Bart's still in the game. There's still a possibility with him.
Perfect.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
I want to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. And just remember, call in. We love having you a part of the show. Voicemails will be back next episode. I also want to shout out real quick our show website, ragingbullets.com. That's where I put up tentative outlines on where we're headed. That will change from time to time. At the beginning of the year, I took on a new job, and with Jim's job responsibilities, we tend to juggle around days that we're recording just because, honestly, professionally, our professional life gets in the way. Sometimes personal family life as well. And we're committed to releasing this as a 4-a-month podcast. And we do a pretty good job with that, considering all the work constraints and things like that. But the idea behind the website is really just to give you updates on what kind of content we're looking at talking about, but also tentative dates on when we're going to be releasing the podcast. And if there's ever changes, I always post them to the website. They tend to happen more frequently lately. So the website is your source. That does feed into our Twitter account. It does feed into our Facebook page. And changes do just have to happen over time. I believe in communication and letting you know when those things happen, so that way you're in the loop and you know when the episode's coming. That's the purpose of the website. So I also want to shout our Facebook group, which we share with DCinfinite.com, which is your DC Comics news source. And it's a wonderful community. It's grown so far beyond the show. I've loved this week in particular. There's been a lot of news released over this week about which shows have gone to series and which ones haven't, including things like The Flash and Gotham and Constantine. All of those have gone to series. So there's a lot of discussion going on in there about those series. But there's also shout-outs of things like, the Marvel series that are currently going on, which I'm really loving. That there's going to be an Agent Carter series spinning out of the Captain America movie. And it's great to see more of the comic book properties expanding and people talking about those. Lots of talk about comics in and out of DC on the website, blogs, podcasts. It's just a great community of people who are talking positively about the things we all know and love. So please consider joining that Facebook group. It is separate from our Facebook page. And please consider joining in a part of, whether you like to post regularly or just kind of pop in every so often. It's a great community. We are also available on Google+. And we have personal pages on Google Plus as well. And we just want to be a part of social media and connecting with you with what's going on with the podcast. So thank you very much for everyone that shouts us out, too. We get a lot of retweets on Twitter and Facebook messages that are shared and Google Plus messages that are shared and favorited and things like that. I really appreciate people that take the time for that. We do not have an advertising budget. We are a fanzine. I really consider our podcast a fanzine. We're a very niche podcast, and we rely heavily on you to get the word out about us. If you like what we're doing, that's one of the nicest things you can do for us. This is not a money-making operation for us. We really, honestly, our sponsors help defer some of our costs, and that's not a complaint. We do this as a labor of love. We have fun doing this, and we do it because you come and listen. So you guys helping out to kind of get the word out about us is very helpful to us. That's why we do this, because people listen. So thank you so much for anything you've ever done, even if it's just in passing, mentioning our podcast to somebody at a convention or something. That may seem like something small to you, but with our listening numbers, if everybody's doing things like that, you're really getting the word out for us pretty widespread, and it's greatly appreciated. We don't get a chance to thank you enough for that. Sponsoring us this episode, once again, really quick, is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, the Absolute Batman Incorporated hardcover. It's $125 regularly, 50% off only $62.50. Remember, they're Comixology and My Digital Comics partner. If you connect those accounts, you earn 5% of those purchases. It doesn't cost you anything more towards your DCB service order. Please consider linking those accounts if you haven't already linked them somewhere else to dcbservice.com. It helps out our show sponsor as well. So it's kind of a great way to give something back to them. Over at InStockTrades.com, Nightwing Volume 1. Traps and Trapezes, collecting the initial 7 issues of Nightwing. $14.99 regularly, 45% off, only $8.24. Volume 2, which is the Night of the Owls trade paperback from Nightwing, collects issues 8 through 12 and the 0 issue. That's $8.24. Volume 3, The Death of the Family, New 52 trade paperback. That's 45% off. That one's $9.34, but it collects issues 13 through 18 and Batman number 17. And it's just a great way, if you haven't been reading Nightwing, the work of Kyle Higgins over there has just been absolutely amazing. I can't recommend the series enough. The artwork is always spectacular. This is a great way at 45% off to get yourself in on the series now. Because it's well worth reading leading up to the new Grayson series. Our next 2 episodes, actually, we can reveal the content of. Our next episode, we're going to continue our discussion from this episode and finish off with Justice League United. We're going to talk about 0 and 1, because issue 1 will have come out in between that. So we're going to have that. We are going to talk about Secret Origins number 1, All-Star Western number 30, the Batgirl Annual, and the Movement number 12. If we don't get to something on that episode, that will be bumped and continue with our next episode after that, which will feature Batman and Son. So I'm really excited to talk about that. Have you had without revealing anything, have you had a chance to watch it yet?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming you're probably as anxious as I am to have a discussion about it, and then we'll kind of leave it at that. So we will see everyone next week. Fun lineup over the next couple weeks.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and loss and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan. And what you do to me, Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see